Hello my friends, I'm Coral. Welcome back to my channel. I'm here today with the books that I ended up reading in June. There's quite a few of them and there's some variety this month, and I liked, I think, all of the books that I read. Alright, to get into the stats for what I read this month, in total there were 12 books. 5 of them were books off of my TBR, so those are books that I owned previous to this year. 1 of them was borrowed, 1 was an ALC from Libra FM, and 2 of them were rereads. I ended up reading 4,170 pages this month, which is about 139 pages per day. I have a goal for the year to read 40,000 pages, so after last month I had, 16,935 pages left to read, and then after this month I will have 12,765 pages until I reach my goal. The genres I read this month: 4 horror, 3 fantasy, 2 thrillers, 2 sci-fi, and 1 nonfiction. The oldest book I read this month came out in 1982, then I read a book from 1985, I read a book from 1992, 1 from 2012, 1 from 2013, then 1 from 2019, 1 from 2020, 1 from 2021, and then 3 new releases. I'm also trying to be more conscious of like what I'm reading as far as series go, so I'm trying not to do this thing that I like to do where I read 1 book in a series and I'm like, I like that, and then I just like don't ever read the rest of the series. I'm trying not to do that. So 1 book was the start of a series. I read it. I think I'm not going to continue on with the series. And then 1 I reread to be able to continue on with the series, and I'm planning on doing that. I really hope to get the whole series read this year. As far as audience age, I read 1 middle grade novel, 1 YA novel, and then 10 adult novels. 2 were audiobooks, and 10 of them were physical copies, and all 12 books were novel length. Alright, now let's get on to the actual fucking books that I read. So, I picked 3 books for the Scary Sleepover weekend. My weekends, as always. I mean, not all my weekends are busy, but it seems like whenever I sit down and I'm like, I'm going to read 3 fucking books this weekend, I don't end up having as much time as I thought I would. So I read 2 of the 3 books that I picked out for the Scary Sleepover weekend. One of them was Stay Out of the Basement by R.L. Stine, which is the second Goosebumps book. This one, I'm not sure if I read this one when I was a kid. I really only remember reading a couple of them, although I had a good many of them, and I know that I read a lot of them, but you know, that was 20 years ago. More than that. That was, you know, I don't know, 13 years ago. Anyway, so I read Stay Out of the Basement, one of my favorite episodes of the Goosebumps TV show. And this is about, let's see, what are their names? Margaret and Casey, brother and sister, and their dad is a scientist, and he works with plant stuff, and he's experimenting right now on plant stuff, and he starts to act really strange, and he works in their basement, and he keeps telling them, stay out of the basement, and they don't listen very well. And let me tell you, if these were my kids, I would probably be pretty upset, because just like over and over they're in the basement. The dad's like, I told you to stay out of here, and they just don't listen. But you know, maybe that eventually pays off because they are able to, you know, be the heroes in the end because they're going into the basement. So it was a good book. It was a great Goosebumps book. I think this one is much better than Welcome to Dead House, which is the only other Goosebumps I've read in like, you know, dozens of years. So there's that. Then I read Slumber Party by Christopher Pike. This is the first time I've ever read Christopher Pike. I don't know. I think I was just too young when these would have been big. I mean, this came out in the 80s, so this came out in 1985, so a couple years before I was even born. So it definitely was not there for like when this was a hot new teen book. And I just really missed out on Christopher Pike altogether. Even growing up reading Goosebumps and a couple of the Fear Street books, I really didn't ever hear of Christopher Pike until, you know, getting into stuff like this as an adult. So this is my first Christopher Pike, and I heard that this is Christopher Pike's first Christopher Pike as well. So I could be wrong, but I really liked this. I saw a couple reviews online that were like, he hasn't hit his stride yet, but I had a lot of fun with this. I did not think it was as predictable as some people found it. In fact, like, I kind of maybe fell for some of the red herrings in this book, which is fun because, you know, in the end, it can still surprise you. This is about a group of girls. They've been friends for years, and they're getting together after not seeing some of them. You know, some of them haven't seen each other in years, and they get together at their friend Nell's like family vacation house at a ski resort, which is very swanky. While all of these girls share this like traumatic event that happened when they were together at a sleepover many years ago. And I shouldn't tell you that because that's an interesting thing to find out on your own, but things don't go quite according to plan, and I really liked this. All right, then I also read Kenobi by John Jackson Miller, which is, I don't know, a Star Wars book. I really like Star Wars, but I don't like to talk about it a lot because I tend to not like very many other Star Wars fans because I feel like, well, not all of them, but some of them are so purist and just like don't want to have fun with shit anymore. And it's like, I get it. Listen, nothing's gonna be the original trilogy, right? Nothing's gonna be that ever again. So you either have to stop watching it and stop complaining about it, or like watch it and keep your comments to yourself, or like just don't watch it, right? So I really like Star Wars. I like Star Wars a lot. And when the Kenobi show came out, I was like, oh, I have a Kenobi book on my shelf that Zach bought me. And I decided to read it, and I wasn't, I don't know, because also like some things are canon, you know, some things in the books are canon and a lot of it is not. And then when Disney got the Lucasfilm stuff, they like uncanonized a whole bunch of shit. So it's like, I don't even know if this is canon. Like, I don't know if what we're seeing in the Kenobi show is ever gonna be like in a book, like are any of those events ever in a book. But this happens like right after Kenobi, Obi-Wan Kenobi drops Luke off with his aunt and uncle, and he's trying to figure out what to do. Obviously, you know, the Empire is trying to kill all the Jedis at this point, and he doesn't know what to do with himself. Really though, this book isn't a lot about Kenobi. Like, he is a central character in this, but the main character is really like this mother on Tatooine who owns like a general store and bar, and Tatooine's like a desert planet, right? So like there is this big thing about the water there, and water is a very rare resource, and she's able, her late husband like fixed up this thing that purifies the water and makes it taste so fucking good, and people just love it, right? So this has been an empire that she's built for herself, and then Kenobi gets mixed into things, and there's like this other guy who gets mixed into things, and I really like this, even though, you know, it wasn't really about Kenobi. He was just a side character in this. Okay, so one of the rereads this month was The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater. I decided I wanted to try to read the series this year, and this is a book that I read, I think in 2016. And so this is, you know, something I haven't read in years, and I was like, well, I better reread it before going on to the second book, which I've started, and I really like it. But this book was so good. This book, I liked this better the second time I read it, and it might be that I listened to an audio copy of this, which was narrated by, I think, Will Patton, who is just so good. It's just such a fucking great story. I don't even know how to explain this to you. Basically, we're following a couple different people. One of them is a girl named Blue, and she has psychic family. Like, she lives in this house full of women. Some of them are related to her, some of them aren't. but they're all like psychics and they all work together, and it's just like this really interesting dynamic. But the thing is that Blue is not psychic herself, but she amplifies other people's psychic powers. So if her mom's giving someone a tarot reading, you know, if Blue touches the card first, or if Blue touches her mother while she's doing this reading, the outcome might be more clear for her mother, who is a psychic. And it's just really fun. And then there's also this group of boys who go to this prestigious school in the town that Blue lives in. It's a private boys' school. So most of the boys are very hoity-toity. They have parents who are just gonna bankroll everything, you know what I mean? But there's one boy in that group who is on scholarship, and he actually lives in this small southern town, just like Blue. Comes from, you know, a family who doesn't have money. He's on a scholarship. He has to work and help, you know, pay the other half of his tuition, stuff like that. So there's a lot of really interesting people. The kind of leader of the boy gang, his name is Gansey, and he's really obsessed with this like Welsh king who should be dead, but Gansey thinks he's not. He's just like in a eternal slumber. And so like there's this magical stuff going on, and a lot of this is just like this first book, them meeting, you know, Blue and the boys meeting, and them looking for this dead king, you know, trying to figure out like, you know, where this might be, because Gansey's really sure it's somewhere in the area that they're in, etc, etc, etc. It's a really great book, and I'm so glad I reread it. I liked it so much more the second time. I mean, I liked it the first time, but I think I really, really got it this time. And there are a couple parts here that give me goosebumps in a spooky way. Also this month I read The Fervor by Alma Katsu. Okay, so this is about a woman, Meiko, and she is with her daughter, and they're in a Japanese internment camp in Idaho during World War II. And I know most of us, most Americans, you know, growing up in the American school system, I did not hear about this. I was in my 20s when I first heard that this happened. And the American school system isn't the only time I've ever like gotten information about World War II, because my dad, he's, you know, a dad, and so he really likes Civil War stuff and World War II stuff. And I've, you know, we've watched shows and we've watched like PBS documentaries and stuff like that, and I never heard of this growing up. Never ever. So I think that this point of view is so important, because I mean, I don't know of any other book, not that I know of all the books, but I've never heard of a book taking place in a Japanese internment camp in America, you know what I mean? So I really encourage people to get out there and read this simply because of that. Okay, so Meiko and her daughter are in this internment camp. She's married to a white man, so her daughter is half Japanese, half white, and that's a problem in and of itself, because I'm not Japanese, so what I know about this is what this book has told me. And you know, it's I believe the author is also half Japanese, so I'm going to trust her when I say that. The daughter's ostracized because she's half white, because in Japanese culture, you know, her parents would want her to marry another Japanese person, and she did not do that. So her daughter is kind of ostracized for being half white, and she's feeling a little ostracized because she married a white man, and now she's worried that because her husband in the military is married to a Japanese woman, that there might be issues for him in the military, and it's very complex. And then also, people in this internment camp are getting really ill, and the sickness starts, and people are like itchy and irritable, and they just get like more and more full of rage and violence and hatred, and eventually it does end with their death. So there's this going around, and you know, the guards are also catching it, and people outside the internment camps, like Americans, start to catch it too. So it's like this thing where the government wants to figure out what's going on, and they might be, you know, there might be some secret testing going on and things like that. So it's very complicated, and there's Japanese folklore that's tied into this. And there were so many interesting elements. I really loved the daughter, Aiko. She was very sweet and just serious and forthright, and a character that I really liked, and I would have liked to see more of in the story. There are quite a few different points of view. Yeah, and all around it is this like Japanese folklore, and I really like that. But the plot, it was just, I don't know. I think that's the thing that really got me. It's very slow paced, and there wasn't ever a really a part of the plot that grabbed me and made me want to keep reading. It was like, I read it because I liked it enough that I wanted to finish it, but not necessarily because I was excited to know what was going on, which is kind of a problem, but I don't know. And I hate when this happens with, to me, when I can't give this like a stellar review because I want people to go and pick this up. I think especially, you know, the point of view in this of Meiko and her daughter in this Japanese internment camp in fucking America, right? Like, that's so important. And the things that they have to say about racism and culture and things like that, it's important. So I would encourage you to get out there and read it. All right, next on my pile is Hide by Kiersten White. I did a full-length review on that, so you'll have to watch that to find out how I felt about it. But I did like that, so there's that. Oh boy, this book, I'm gonna try not to talk too long about this. This is Manual for Survival by Kate Brown, and holy shit, this is a fucking dense nonfiction science history book. This is about the after effects of the explosion at Chernobyl and basically how it affected the surrounding areas, what different governments around the world did or did not do, the effects of, you know, radiation for generations, and how scary that is and how much that affects people. And, you know, there's statistics about fertility even, you know, even here, because there has been like nuclear testing here, and I don't know. It's a book that is gonna make you upset. But, you know, this is a book too where I wish I was more learned about the subject, because getting thrown into this, like, I kind of know what happened, but there's a lot of science stuff in here that I had no idea about. So there was a lot of like, you know, looking stuff up, having to reread parts and stuff like that. But I thought this was really interesting. I also found it really interesting that a lot of the people who were whistleblowers in this, people who are trying to say, stop, there's something wrong here, this is not right, what's happening and what the government's doing, a lot of them were women, which is kind of interesting. And I guess that's it. This was a good nonfiction, but it was really dense. Like, you gotta take a week and a half out of your life to sit down and like thoroughly read this. All right, the other reread for me this month was Different Seasons by Stephen King. I also listened to this on audio. Oh, so I had 3 audiobooks this month, not 2. Anyway, this is, you know, the collection that has The Body, Apt Pupil, Rita Hayworth and the Shawshank Redemption, and The Breathing Method. And you know what? All 4 of those books, or all 4 of those novellas are very fucking good. So it's been a long time since I read this, and I don't know if the last time I read it, I was definitely in high school, and I'm not sure if I appreciated all the stories as much as I do now. So yeah, if it's been a long time since you've read that, I would definitely recommend going back and, you know, picking that up. Okay, then I picked up this Getaway by Zoje Stage. This was my book this month for a summer month, you know, read that might feel very summery. I didn't know until reading it though that this actually takes place, I think, in October. Not quite a summer read, but they're hiking in the Grand Canyon, which can be pretty hot in the desert. So, I mean, I guess like there are some warm weathery feels, but really this is less about surviving in the elements, which I thought maybe it would be, I don't know. So this is about a group of 3 women. 2 of them are sisters, and then the other one is a woman who's been their friend for years and years, but they're all kind of estranged because of something that happened, and you don't really know what it is, but you know that there's a lot of tension. Yeah, so, you know, I don't want to give anything away, so it makes it a little bit hard to talk about, but they're going on a hike to kind of bond, and things don't go well. They start like losing things out of their packs, and they're not really sure what's going on, and eventually they find out what's going on, of course. So there's that. I liked a lot of this, but there is something that the characters do at the end of the book that really just does not make sense to me, and I don't think it's a thing like decent humans would do, and I don't think it's a thing that, I don't know. You'll just have to read it for yourself, I guess, if you're really curious about that, or you can, you know, like message me or something, but I don't know. I'm really disappointed in how this ended, because it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. I liked it. And then they did that thing, and it's like, wow, this just throws all of it in the fucking trash, doesn't it? Okay, another book that I did a full review on, Book of Night by Holly Black. I think I posted it yesterday. So if you're curious about how I felt about that, you'll have to watch that video. So the last book here is Fable by Adrienne Young. And this was my 5-star prediction, and you know what? I didn't really like it. I don't know. This is about a young girl named Fable. Her dad is like a dreaded pirate. He rules the seas, and he decides to leave her on this like terrible island to fend for herself. And so she's got to like make a way to make money to earn a ride back to where her dad hangs out. A lot of it is about that. She ends up finding a crew who will take her, and she's kind of making friends with them, and of course there is kind of a romance and stuff like that, but really like nothing happens in this book. It is a lot of people talking and a lot of Fable just, she's just one of those characters who's the best at everything, you know what I mean? Which can be a little bit old sometimes. So yeah, this is like piratey, nautical, YA, not really fantasy. I don't feel like there was any fantastical elements to it, but I'm not sure what else to categorize it as. Like maybe historical fiction, kind of, because it's old-timey, but I don't really know. So I didn't like Fable as much as I thought it would. It's one of those books where you read it and you're like, did me and you read the same thing, because you really love this book and you think it's like one of the best books of all time, and I just thought it was like really fine, you know what I mean? Not even bad. Just like there wasn't any, what was special about it, I guess. I'm wondering what was special about this book. I don't know. I lied to you. I said there was only one book left, but now there's really just one book left. So the last book I read was August Kitko and the Mechas from Space by Alex White. This book I did unfortunately DNF. This was an AOC from Libro FM. This comes out July 12th. This I chose against my better judgment. I don't like mechas. I don't like mecha stuff. I don't like fucking Transformers. I don't like anime with mecha in it. Like I don't like Neon Genesis Evangelion. Like I don't like stuff like that. But I was like, well, maybe I'll like it in a book, I guess. Like I should try it, right? I should broaden my horizons, expand my reading mind. And I did not like this. It's very heavy on the mecha. So, I mean, like, what did I expect? This is really my fault. This is nothing on this book. In fact, this book felt really colorful. There is a really interesting non-binary character. The main character is really into music. So, like, there is a lot of music stuff in this. And there's a lot of mecha. So, if you like that, I would definitely recommend picking this up. This just like absolutely was not my type of book, but that doesn't make it bad. It's just that it's just not my kind of book. Okay, well now I am done. Those are the books that I read in June. I will have a link to my bookshop.org in my description page if you want to pick up any of these books for yourself and you want to use you know, that website. It brings you up to a list where I'll have all these books, so it makes it easier for you. You don't even have to type in the name, it'll just be there. Other than that, I'd love to know if you've read any of these and what you thought about them. I'd love to know what you loved, what you read and loved this month, And that's it. So thank you all so much for watching. I will see you guys later. Goodbye.